iRacing.
After World War II, many of the airfields around the UK didn't have much use anymore. But as the popularity of motor racing grew, it turned out they did in fact have a great use for them. Snetterton is just that sort of circuit, which you'll see as we get ready for round 4 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stephen Koenig. Behind the scenes is our director, Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Like many other airfield circuits, this place has gone through a lot of changes. So let's get a quick overview with our track guy. Welcome to Snetterton Circuit. Like many British tracks that were born shortly after World War II, this venue was made out of an old military airfield. It's a mere 30 minutes drive from Norwich and offers up 3 different layouts of varying lengths. This means the track is easily able to host international, regional, and club-level racing. Previously rather simple, the circuit's most recent update in 2011 introduced a twisty infield section. Still, it's mainly punctuated by 2 very long straights, the Senna Straight, where the pits are located, and the Bentley Straight, which acts as the backstretch. As you'd expect for a track born out of an airfield, there's little in the way of elevation change. However, the one spot in which you do find some undulation, it really stands out. The bomb hole dips cars down in the middle of a quick right-hand kink, causing them to have to keep a heads up lest they lose the car. The track is not without character though. Rich's is very swift for a first turn and includes 2 distinct apexes. There's also the combination of Brundle and Nelson, which forces drivers to turn hard while braking. Never an easy combination to manage. The long sweeping run through Coram down into Maurice can also be quite tricky. The car will want to drift out, forcing a shallow entry into the final left-hander. But failing to give yourself a good exit will leave you vulnerable to attack down the pit straight. Perhaps not as famous as some other British circuits, this place is a bit of a hidden gem in the UK motorsport scene. Fans who get to witness racing here certainly seem likely to return. Well, Stephen, it may not be as famous as places like Silverstone, but I think this is a really fun track to race.
An absolutely incredible circuit, but demands a lot of focus as they will start down the center straight into Riches, and you've got to be hard on the brakes into Montreal. Be careful not to lock it up with turn 2. Power your way back up towards 3 and then aim for turn forwards. Just follow the leader 4, 5, 6 all the way through to 8. Once you're down the Bentley straight, you're going to see how these V8s open up, and it's going to be the slipstream effect. Careful into Brundle. Little bit of braking and then hard on the brakes, gearing down for Nelson in turn 10. Work your way through the bomb hole into Coram and ending off as hard braking, little left-hander, and really standing on the throttle into Murray's before you charge down the center straight again. This 4.7 kilometer circuit that's open in 1951 is all about rhythm and putting pressure on your competitor.
Certainly, and the drivers are going to have to put pressure on one another because the championship situation has gotten a little bit interesting. Now, these top 5 that you're going to see here on this list have not won after 3 races, and that's because Valenteus and then Togo Hosada, who isn't even in with the top 10 here, have missed races so far. But Nicola Kaki has been the most consistent, so he's at the top. Kevin Verbruggen only 8 behind him. Seb Tixia another 2 back. Those 3 looking very tight up there. John Olsen pretty close as well, as he's another only 8 points behind. And then Marco Salgado, you can't count him out. It's been a great season so far, cracking into the top 5. But with Valenteus having drop weeks that will come into account, I have to imagine that he's probably going to continue to jump up the order as he is here today, because he tends to win when he shows up. That is just the F1 standings, and that is 2,500 or above on the iRating. What about the F2 standings here, Stephen?
Well, with the likes of Janus Copter, who leads out the pack, but only by 19 points. Andreas Bruno is hoping to catch up. Mats Lynn also getting up to pace, been doing a lot of practice on the circuit. Alan Graham, Donald Peake in 5th place. Tobias Honvey is lying in 6th place. Raul Pickett Donasso in 7th. Andrew Ing in 8th place. 9th is David Riccardi, and rounding out the field is Eugenio Massa on 79 points. But this circuit may flip the script for a whole lot of our F2 drivers, because sometimes it doesn't play to the big strengths. But take a look at our Cup of Nations, Joe.
Yep, Italy leading with Nicola Cocchi being up at the top of the driver points, so kind of no surprise there. England sitting in second with Liechtenstein in third. France with Seb Tixier representing them has currently helped them up into fourth. United Kingdom rounding out our top five, and yes, they count them as two different nations there, England and the UK. But Sao Tome and Principe, Spain, Ukraine, Germany, and the United States rounding out your top 10. As you can see, they do count multiple drivers in that championship, so that's why it is slightly mixed up compared to the way that they have the F1 points. But let's go through our details for today's race, Stephen, in case we have any new viewers.
Well, this is round 4 of 12, which means it has been exciting this far, and it's about to get even more. 19 laps of keeping things on circuit is going to be the difficult one. Open setups means that you can really get these cars dialed in for your driving. No spare car, so if you bin it, break it, you're sitting on the sidelines watching the race. Drive-through at 17x and disqualification at 25x. With track limits so tight on Snetterton, it really forces the drivers into a bit of a situation. Keep it on the black stuff. Do not touch the white lines.
Right now, looks like we need Andres Valenteus to get a clean lap because he hasn't set his first one yet, but that's kind of typical for him. He tends to wait until late to try and set his laps. Kevin Verbruggen going from strength to strength. He's been looking super fast these past couple seasons, and right now sits on provisional pole quicker than Nicola Cocchi by nearly 0.2 of a second. So that's pretty strong around a lap like this, as we watch Andreas Valenteus come around the last few corners. That's through the bomb hole and now into Corum. Long right-hander, which ends in that tricky braking, Stephen, into Murray's.
Absolutely a hard braking zone, and with these cars that are so softly sprung, you've got to be very, very careful on the throttle as well, as it will end up biting you in a heartbeat. Many of the drivers have been utilizing a bit of shifting earlier instead of bringing it right through the revs, just to avoid the wheel spin on the exits. But I'm very, very sure that Valenteus, after his dominating run at Brands Hatch, may have a bit more of a run. However, I'm taking a look. Kevin Verbruggen, Nicolas Cocchi, Leo Sequeira, and Seb Tixier, along with Togo Sutter, who are going to be fighting out a little bit lower in the field at the moment, and don't count a Gary Ho as well. We're in for an exciting time for the entire top 3, as we saw at Brands Hatch.
Sada all the way down to 7th. He just improved, though, up to 5th with a 47.9. A bit unusual for him. He tends to be at least close on pace compared to Valenteus, who, as you may have seen on the left-hand side, jumped all the way up the pole ahead of Verbruggen by more than a quarter of a second. Alan Graham will cross the line and put himself into 16th with that 49.6. And Valenteus, he did that on his first lap, so he gets a whole nother one to try and improve. And it does look like a lot of drivers are finding a little bit more pace, as I wonder if the tires are starting to come in better on that second lap, Stephen.
It's also trying to shake out the nuts and bolts, as you and I are talking a little bit earlier before the broadcast. These are circuits that aren't widely used. It's a bit of a switch up to last season. So many of the drivers are just trying to get their eye in that a little bit more, see where they can go and how far they can push the limits with these cars as they slip and slide underneath them, but also try and get to grips with a circuit that doesn't get used too often on the iRacing calendar.
47.1, another 0.3 quicker. It is now just roughly 0.6 of a second. Rare that you see gaps this big in the Lotus 49s. The top of the field tends to be incredibly close. A couple other drivers, I think, are still out there, but I'm not sure if any of them are able to set laps. No, it looks like they have all taken their 2 lap times. So the grid is effectively set from here. As you can see, a few of them slowing down despite a couple seconds left and just wrapping this one up. Well, some fascinating stuff at the top of the field, seeing a bit of a shakeup, especially with one of our former champions, Togo Hisada, finding himself all the way down in 5th. That gives us a chance to go through our starting order for today's event. And up at the top of it, Audrius Valenteus claims yet another pole position. Kevin Verbruggen will start next to him in 2nd, Nicola Kaki in P3, Seb Tixier in 4th, with Togo Hisada maybe having a bit of a mistake somewhere. He's down in 5th. Next is Leo Sequeiro on the outside of that 3rd row. Gary Ho was 7th with Bill Tyler in P8. John Olsen will start from 9th, and Josephine Becker starting within the top 10.
Incredible stuff. Down towards 11th place, it's Glenn Baker, followed by Yuri Sanaki Raikkonen. Xavier Sanchez in 13, Robert Plumley sitting in 14th, ahead of Janus Kopter, F2 leader. Alan Graham sitting in 16th, Jose Conardi in 17th, 18th is Kurt Clapper, along with Cam Porter and Tobias Honvey down in 20th position.
Andre Bruno starts in 21st, followed by Will Lamb in 22nd. Then it's Thomas Tuba and Mats Linden on row 12. 25th spot goes to Cesar Pava, and Jacob Reed did not set a time. That'll be fun to watch him come from the very back of the field at 26. Jack David Spickett admitted he screwed up his qualifying. He'll start from 27th. Jason Clapper, that's a bit more typical, in 28th. And Don Peak will round out the last of the field in 29th. 29 cars here to race today, and just about all of them ready to go already. In fact, yes, they have now all parked themselves on the grid as the lights come up, the engines start to rev here for round 4, and the green flag is out. Off the line, Valenteus didn't look like he'd get a good start initially, but now in the second phase, he's starting to pull away. Nicola Kaki looking very strong, coming up into riches, looking on the inside of Kevin Verbruggen, but unable to sneak past. This is the first true attempt at trying to make an overtake down in the braking zone of Wilson, but it's also a very dangerous spot. Now our leaders made it through. Didn't see anything there in the background with cars getting into one another, so thankfully it looks like a clean start.
Oh, Gary Ho taking the long way around, trying to get his way back up through the order, chasing down Sib Tixier and Togo Sutter right up the gearbox as well, looking for an opportune moment to see where he could get a little bit of a climb. A bit of cross arms from Gary, and Toga says, thank you very much, I got that, and now sets his charge to move forward. Gary's going to try and fight back. We saw it happen at Brands Hatch. Can he make the magic happen here at Snetterton, right behind Togo Sutter, who we know once he gets the pace, he will push harder and harder.
Error loses track position for Gary Ho farther down the field. Jacob Reed is already up 8 positions. He is just scything through this field as we come down the Bentley Straight. Perhaps one of the longest portions of on throttle that you can get at this track, but he's already having to wait patiently as he is stuck in a group through now one of the more technical parts.
Absolutely incredible driving from our Lotus 49 drivers. Jacob Reed feeling the pressure though, goes out a little bit wide. Can he carry the momentum to just keep going that little bit more? 400 horsepower, 0 downforce. It's down to pure mechanical grip. And take a look at Jack David Spickett. From not being able to set a lap time, he's now fighting his way back up through the order and wants to get into that top 10.
Yeah, he's been following Jacob all the way through, so each of them up 10 so far. And I have to imagine he's going to try to mirror that as Glenn Becker goes off at Riches. Easy to do with that double apex right-hander that does not have a whole lot of braking. He stays off the course, just to keep himself out of trouble. Well, unfortunately, it costs himself more positions as he tries to clean off the tires and get it going once again.
If you're falling off in turn one, definitely have a heart rate of 139, trying to keep it all together as you can see, utilizing Pimax VR just so he could spot those apexes a little bit better. Go and look between the suspension arms, just see where everything's going. However, he's got to keep an eye on the review mirrors as well, as everyone now sees he's got to clear all that dirt off his tires.
That was Jason Clapper we saw in the 13 behind him, overtaking Kurt Clapper and moving himself up into 21st. Jacob Reed practically pushing Rockinen through the corners here. He is so close behind him, but now he needs to get a good exit. It doesn't look like he quite had it, so I think they're going to stay in line unless he's feeling very ambitious. And in fact, Jari gives a little bit of a defensive posturing coming up in the Brundle to try and dissuade him, so in line they stay.
To Nelson, and this is actually quite a bit of fun. Through the bomb hole, you've got to feather the throttle. You can't stand on the gas absolutely flat, otherwise you run into a bit of a problem. But you've got to prioritize your corner entry versus the exit to try and get the momentum into this left-hander. Hard on the brakes, down to second, and what a pass.
Jacob Reed not taking no for an answer as Nikola Kaki sets the fastest lap of the race. That's going to move Reed up into 14th position. Now Jack David Spickett going to try to follow him through. He knows he's got to keep touch with him if he wants a shot, as he almost makes contact with the Finn, who will at least hold him off for now. He gets another chance at it coming down to the braking of Wilson. Gets pinched at the apex. The two are going to come together, and around they both go, losing multiple positions with no place to re-enter safely, although Jari dangerously tries to get himself in there and thankfully finds a safe spot.
That, unfortunately, is why single-seaters don't mix wheels. You've got to go and be so careful. Once you're between each other's wheels, it's going to end in tears 90% of the time. Nicholas Kaki up into third place, has got Verbruggen just ahead of him and will be chasing down. Verbruggen, you've got to remember, Brands Hatch was on a proper chase to try and get into the podium ranks. Now in second place, and can still see Valenteus ahead of him by lap 3, but Rocky gonna try and gun down the inside.
Yeah, he was getting awful close as Verbruggen made a mistake going through Williams. Didn't quite work out for him that time, but at least he kept him behind. They continued to lose ground with Valenteus up to about a second and a half ahead of them at this stage. So down to the final corner once again for our leader with no one to challenge him. It's looking to be very similar to what we saw back at Brands Hatch, where he led from early on and nobody could touch him.
Not pulling as big of a gap as one would think. 1.3 seconds does set the fastest lap, but any mistake through any of these corners, remember he's pushing hard now, can he maintain that pace? Otherwise, he's going to land up getting sucked in through the field, and it's not just one car to worry about, as we do see Kevin Bruggen taking a very tight line this time around. Unfortunately for Koki, he was a little bit later, and Seb Tixier is still in the mix as well. So one mistake means that you're going to be dropping down into the top 5.
I have to say I'm impressed. Those first few laps, there's a lot of side-by-side racing as we see the action down here behind Glenn Becker trying to hold on to 16th. And in spite of all that, we have only had one car come to pit lane. Cesar Pava has a black and orange flag. That's a little wide from Glenn. Thought maybe Cam could try and capitalize on it. He's going to take a look to the inside, but I don't know if he's quite there. Attempts to outbrake him into Agostini, but no dice. In fact, he loses a position. No, excuse me, Glenn is still just in front of him. And they've actually got, Jose Conde at the front of this train. My apologies. I thought Glenn was our lead car.
Glenn actually going and keeping up a lot of pressure onto Jose, but watch every time he tries to go for a pass and it fails, he gets sucked back into the train behind him. So he's got to be so careful to not go and count himself out. Well, Jacob Reed, though, going to look for a pass and does get it done. Up on the inside under braking. Can he keep it all together? Bit of sideways action, and through Bommel he goes. Jacob Reed is now turning up the wick.
Yeah, this is pretty impressive stuff. Without Jack David Spickett following him through, he's basically a lone wolf having to make all this happen. but he's got 5 seconds to catch up to Sanchez, the next car that you see there on your screen now. He's chasing John Olsen to try to get back into the top 10. But we're seeing a lot of these trains form as we check back in with Nicola, and he's going to try and send it up the inside into Wilson. And Verbruggen could do nothing this time to hold him back. Now, has this uncorked Nicola? Can he try to run down Audrey's?
Well, what it has done is it's brought Septixia back into the picture as well, because he's not too far back and can also start looking on the attack to Verbruggen ahead of him. So for Nicola, it's now put the hammer down, start trying to run away as quick as possible, because you've got two very, very feisty drivers behind you that want that second place spot, and to have a shot at Valenteus ahead.
Togo's still stuck in 5th where he started this race. He's now got Gary Ho close behind, who is challenging him on the first lap to try to take that 5th position away. Does Gary get a decent exit? Does look like it's a pretty good one here coming down the Bentley straight, but I fear he's not going to be near enough to try and attack coming into Brundle, which is very much single file at the best of times.
Just got to wait and bide your time. But this circuit favors by just keeping your opponent busy, looking in the mirrors left and right. Togo Sutter is a very, very quick driver, and that is why he is a champion. However, champions can make mistakes as well, especially when you start taking up that little bit of real estate and start playing a bit of mind games. Am I inside? Am I outside?
Checking in with Josephine Becker, a gain of 2 since the start of this race. The only driver within the top 10 who has taken more than a single position forwards. And she's still got Bill Tyler trying to demote her that one extra that she's got over her rivals, but no dice coming into Riches this time. And then, of course, John Olsen close behind. But look at this. They've already got Jacob Reed back by, what about maybe 7 seconds or so. And he is charging fast. So I imagine before this race is over, he is going to catch that group and be fighting them for a top 10 position.
Well, it's going to be a hard on the brakes now, as Jose having to defend the inside line. And unfortunately, having to really look and see where he can guard. Jose really battling to try and hold his spot. Unfortunately, down into 17th. Can he get on the drive? Not quite this time around. And now is just falling down the train as he battles on. I mean, this is always a difficult situation. Have you run out of stamina? Do you need to catch a second win? Well, Jack David Spickett in 23rd still keeps up the drive.
And it's Cam Porter at the front now, interestingly. Glenn Becker's fallen towards the middle of that group. So, yeah, the drivers who were closer up at the front were having problems, while Spickett is able to get by Yari after their little tussle earlier on. They're at the back of this train. 2 drivers that are absolutely out of position now. So this should be fun with a train of, what are we looking at, 8 or 9 cars here? And they've got a veritable buffet in front of them, while Glenn Becker thinks about trying to overtake Clapper, but to no avail.
This is going to be an interesting one of you can't really attack forward because there isn't much space to get on by. But also, how much are you going to recover in terms of time? As everyone's so compressed to one another, is it worth just keeping close to your competitor, follow through, wait an extra lap or 2, see how the train develops before you go on the attack, or get that aggressive approach, try and send it down the inside?
Well, Jack, I think, is going for the aggressive approach. He's already gotten by Harnvey and now is looking to try and catch up to Glenn Becker, who we're watching just behind Kurt Clapper. And Kurt is going to go a little bit wide while Glenn gets the run, but is not brave enough trying to outbrake him coming into Wilson. But he might pay the price for that, as he's now got him close behind. Bill Tyler having to catch the car as John Olsen tries to capitalize on the mistake, but does not make it stick. But a big catch there by Bill in the number 12 to keep the car from going around into Augustini.
Hats off to Bill Tyler on that one. Not an easy thing to do. When these cars step out, they will send you flying. However, to manage to hold on to the car, yes, he lost 1 position, but it could have been so much worse, as now he's fighting to stay in that 9th position and still keep into the slipstream of the cars ahead, I think Bill's got a little bit of a chance here to see if he can just go bleed off the brakes a bit early, try put his nose in, and go back on the attack.
Yeah, I can't stress enough how impressive it is to catch some of these snaps and slides in these cars. In real life, Seb, once again appealing to Joey Atterbury and I with a dog on his feed here. But back to my point, these cars in real life, you would feel the inner gyros, Stephen, and that helps you be able to try and correct any of the mistakes out there. In the sim, you don't have that, and we saw how quickly it all happened. So that's why I'm so wowed by him catching such a massive snap.
You got to feel it by the seat of your pants this time, now by the seams of the gloves. As Cam Porter also trying to see if he can make up some ground. Unfortunately, not into turn one. Will have to bide his time and aim down towards Wilson. Can he get a little bit closer under braking? Waits right to the last before he really pushes onto the brake early on the power and not utilizing as much of the circuit. He's taking a little bit more of a calmer approach at the moment, saving the tires to maybe push that a little bit harder as we're only on lap 8 of 19.
There's another one for Jack. He's now up to 18th. And yeah, that was Jason Clapper, I think, who had gotten by Cam Porter when we weren't watching. So the 13 car up to P15 now. We shouldn't be that shocked, as Jason is very much known for that. He and Kurt Clapper often will climb through the field. But Jack David Spigot having to do so twice in a bit of a way today after his tangle with Yari. And so far has only managed to get back up to 18th. Alan Graham is the one just in front of him. He looks a lot stronger coming off of Williams, but Graham's going to go defensive, force him the long way. But if he can go the outside of Grundle, he could have this one. And indeed, before they get to the braking, he is ahead. So nice job by Jack.
I think it was a little bit of a "you've got me absolutely cooked" there. Come off the throttle, rather get behind. However, Valenteus opening up the gap, 2.3 seconds to Verbruggen and the likes of Cocky as well. So he's trying to extend that gap away from them, knowing that second, third, and fourth are within their own little fight and looking to score maximum points. Can Valenteus take the victory and the season win here for 2026 to go and knock off Toga Hasada? I think if the stars align, it is so on the cards.
And for what it's worth, Valenteus last lap 0.3 of a second faster than Nikola Kaki. So yeah, he is pulling away, it seems, with just a little bit more speed. It's not over yet, though. We can't write it off. We are on lap 9 out of 19. There's a lot that could happen. And on rare occasions, we do see mistakes. They don't happen often from Valenteus, but he is not infallible. Oh, Gary Ho getting back onto the track, and it looks like with damage on the car as he pulls off. Yeah, that wheel looks a little wobbly. That's day over for the 9 car.
Oh, no spare car, and unfortunately going to be sitting on the grass watching your competitors go around. Such a blow for Gary Ho. He's been on such a climb during the course of the race, and I wonder what on earth went wrong. Did the car snap underneath him that planted him into the wall to write him off? Did he get a little bit too close to gearboxes and get a fright? I don't know, but for Gary, my heart goes out to him.
Side by side between Conde and Räikkönen, and it looks like Yari is going to come out the victor, taking that 19th spot. Valenteus with another fastest lap of the race at a 47.4. Kaki actually very close on pace this time, only a 10th off, but still losing time up at the front. A little bit of a peek inside by Jose, hoping to see if maybe he could get involved in there. No, excuse me, that was Kurt Clapper actually looking to the inside. He's suddenly on the attack. It is Jose on the defense, but a little slip up by Kurt costs him, as Jason Clapper, in the meantime, is in a side-by-side battle with Carpentier, and Yanis is not able to hold him back. So up to P13 for the number 13.
Quick look around turn 1, was able to keep it going. However, turn 2 doesn't look as pretty and now needs to really push as hard as he can. Jason Clapper has been on a stellar drive. However, has been flirting with those track limits a little bit. And something tells me they're going to be starting to look at the incident count and see how high is it going. Remember, 17 incidents, and every time you touch a grass is 1x. You get 17, that's a drive-through. Some of these drivers have really been testing how far they can go.
Exactly. You do not want to go over that limit. Earlier, it was Togo versus Ho for that 5th position. Leo Sequeiro has stepped up to the plate and kind of taken Gary's spot now that he's wrecked out and is challenging the Japanese driver who doesn't seem to click with this track quite as well as what we've seen with other circuits for Togo Hisada. Not sure if he's lacked time to practice or, like you mentioned, maybe just not as familiar with this circuit. But we are not used to him being this far off the pace. He's already nearly 10 seconds away from the lead.
But this is also a big motivation for Leo after having Brands Hatch a nightmare race for him. He's chasing down Togo Hisada and keeping pace. And that's a big confidence boost versus last week where it was just off into the weeds of the countryside most of the time.
So this quartet being led by Bill Tyler currently sees Sanchez, Becker, and Olsen all line astern with one another. A few poking their noses out into Wilson, but to no avail. So they stay put as they are. This is all for 7th spot. And then behind them, that car, I just realized that we could see in the background with a yellow nose, that is Jacob Reed.
Somebody check Jacob Reed's car because he is absolutely a man on a mission and seems to be getting quicker and quicker every single lap. The question is, we've seen this before, and unfortunately, driver running out of fuel. Has Jacob Reed got enough in the tank to see it through to the end? There's 9 laps to go, and he's pushing harder and harder, maybe a little bit more than what he practiced with.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll see. Oh, as he gets loose, and he's going to go around. Some of that hard work has been undone. He catches it before it completely loops 180. But Jacob Reed is at least still going. He's lost about, it looks maybe like 4 or 5 seconds to those in front of them. A good catch for what could have been worse, but that has blunted some of his momentum.
Commentator's curse coming in to full effect. We talk about how great it is, and unfortunately, mistake come in. Sorry, Jacob, on behalf of the GSRC crew. It wasn't our fault. We're just going to say it's Daniel because he showed the camera.
Deflecting the blame a little bit here, but meanwhile, we go back to Nicola Kaki, still ahead of Verbruggen, but not by much, and looks like Seb Tixier has been getting a little bit closer. I don't think he was this near behind them last time we saw this fight, wasn't he?
Slowly but surely, Seb Tixier has been taking out a 10th out of Verbruggen and the likes of Cockies very quick into the second half of the circuit. But it seems to be the drop-off towards the start finish line. He gets close, he drops off, gets close. He's waiting for a moment between Verbruggen and Cocky to be able to get into the mix, to really put the hammer down and see where he can go. Much like John Olsen at the moment, trying to move up into 9th place. He's got Josephine Becker up ahead. That's getting a little bit out of shape through the corners.
Yeah, he is all over the gearbox of that 14 at this stage. She has really sent it into some of these corners. You can see the car rotate its way down to the hairpin at Augie's. But this is where you need that corner exit coming off of Williams. She looks a little bit vulnerable as Olsen has a run. She holds the middle of the track, forcing him to have to take a compromise line. No matter which way he goes for the outside and then backs out of it by the time they hit the braking.
It's close enough to read the model number of the Hewland gearbox there, but just not close enough to make pass around the outside. A very difficult time. This is where it's follow leader, but John Olsen puts his nose in through the bomb hole, and unfortunately, Josephine says, no thank you, not going to happen, and closes that door off extremely on the gas, coming out of the final corner. But John Olsen is not done with the fight yet. Looks to the outside. Josephine's picked the inside line, heading to turn 1. Who's the last of the late breakers? And John Olsen's going to have to take the long way round.
Oh, he tries to cut back underneath, but it is a double apexer, and that doesn't quite work. Oh, a bobble from Becker, and that opens the door. Olsen up the inside, but he loses control. They're going to make contact up into the air. Becker somehow holds on to it on two wheels and keeps going. She gets the spot back.
Well, we did talk about this being an old Air Force base, and so far we got to see the 49 take flight. But Josephine Becker, after that little bit of contact, I wonder what both drivers are feeling on the steering wheel, and now have to try and get themselves back into check as they push on. But John Olsen did everything he could. Unfortunately, the rear just didn't want to live with it.
To quote one of the namesakes of one of these corners, that was ambition over adhesion by Olsen, unfortunately. A little bit deep into the corner, and Becker paid a little bit of the price, but thankfully I think she got away with it. Tried to duck back underneath. Meanwhile, back to Valenteus. Gap is now up to 3.3 seconds over Kaki. Last lap about 0.2 quicker for the number one machine. He continues to lengthen that distance between himself and the Italian, who's still dealing with two cars close behind him. He's maybe on more of a rear guard than trying to push forward at this point, if we're honest.
Well, I've got to say, I love the UK circuits because every single time we come here, it's the top three. But, big talking point, Seb Tixier, fourth place, set the fastest lap time of the race, taking it away from Valenteus. And now we're starting to see Verbruggen getting a little bit more ambitious to attack Kaki ahead of him.
Ooh, well, we come back to Becker and Olsen once again, and she guards the inside coming through Riches. This time she hovers a little bit more towards the middle to cover things off down into Wilson to prevent another sneak attack, and this time it does prevent John Olsen from getting side by side. Maybe he's thinking another spot since that one didn't quite work out as well. Down through Palmer, it gives a little bit of a straightaway here up towards Augustini, and again she feels the need to defend the inside. She is on the back foot, and John Olsen has been poking and prodding, trying to find a way through. He gets another decent exit, but it's too short of a straight to Hamilton.
Absolutely pushing as hard as possible. Interesting to see Josephine taking a little bit of a tighter line, really cutting those apexes, but now it's down towards the Bentley straight. And this is where it's going to play in favor of John Olsen to get right up against that gearbox, see the serial number, and go for the attack towards the inside line if possible. Josephine defends the inside, but John has got the overrun. He's going to try the outside. Who's the last of the late breakers? And once again, Josephine managing to keep her position.
Fantastic job by the number 14 playing defense here. This is for 9th place. John Olsen has been trying everything, and when we've seen him try this one before, but again, I don't think it was a realistic shot in decorum. Just trying to tuck his nose down to the inside of that long right-hander. What can he do to sneak by? Just in front of them, looks like got a decent battle brewing between Sanchez and Tyler. This is for 7th position, although Bill a little bit far behind up to Riches. Could still get himself a shot up into Wilson, renamed as it was formerly called Montreal, named after the Canadian turn. Oh, and this time Olsen has managed to get by Becker, and that was through Riches, it looked like. Not a place that you can often actually make passes.
Looked like Becker put two wheels onto the dirt, got unsteady, also into turn 2, started to feel the same. Maybe the tyre is starting to lose that little bit of a grip, and John Olsen now has to put the hammer down. Cam Porter still in a massive fight for his life, down in 16th position, and really having to just make the car as wide as possible. With 5 laps to go, though, it's all or nothing for the grid.
When Becker sits close behind Cam Porter, that's Carpentier just in front of them at the lead of this group now. This is for 15th position, although Cam sits in P16. And then, of course, it looks like Räikkönen has caught up with him after his early tangle. Jack David Spigot, who he tangled with, is actually up the road already by about 4 seconds. He's sitting in 14th, so he's ran away from this group.
Incredible stuff. Now, the question is, who's got enough in the tank to really give it that last push? Who has the endurance to say, right, I'm going to go that little bit harder. I'm going to take that risk to brake a little bit later. Well, Valenteus is doing exactly that as he retakes the fastest lap of the race away from Seb Texier. Didn't want to lose out to Seb and saying, nope, I'm keeping a dominating effect and I want to be first of everything.
Oh, Jacob Reed in the background has had another spin. I was just going to say he's trying to catch back up after that battle between Olsen and Becker, but he's given away time once again. Maybe he has overheated the tires, and it's not the fuel that he needs to worry about. Robert Plumley could get a spot back, but he lifts before they get up into Riches. I think he knows it's going to be a fool's errand to try and overtake Reed, or maybe not. Reed with another spin. What has happened with this car? Is there damage from the contact that they had earlier?
Well, I've got to say, beautiful pirouette. I'd give it about an 8 out of 10. Execution was great, and the finish was good. Just not enough onto it. Oh, it doesn't seem as settled as it once was. Could see a slight lean angle to it every time he's fighting to keep it all in check. I think he's possibly picked up a little bit of damage and is just battling to keep the car in check. It's not even slowing down the way that he was at an earlier stage of the game. He is really fighting it now.
And you know, I kind of wonder if it's a combination of the 2 points that I theorize here, is that maybe it is a little bit of damage, and maybe that damage changed the way the geometry of the car is, and it's worn out one or some of the tires on the car, because he wasn't struggling this much earlier on. It's only now that it seems like it is just all out of whack.
It's almost like there's a shift in camber on the one side, and he's not happy with that car. It's just dropping him down like a lead rock in a pond. Seb Texier, however, still keeps the pressure onto Verbruggen. 3 laps to go. Can he get into the podium? I mean, this is going to be hard work to get it done, but Kevin Verbruggen is going more defensive than going on the attack to Cocky ahead of him. He's not keeping an eye on Seb, and this means that Seb has just got enough to maybe sit in the corner of Verbruggen's mind and say, hey, listen, I want that final spot, and you're going to give it to me.
Yeah, no doubt he's going to try everything he can. So we check on Verbruggen here, sandwiched between the pair of them. 3 laps to go, 2.5 really at this stage for these drivers. To their credit, despite being outpaced by Valenteus, it's not been by much per lap. It is only about 4.5 seconds from this group up to the leader. And with the pace that Adrius typically has, and what was it, 0.6 of a second difference in the qualifying, I'd say they've managed that gap decently well, prevented him from really running away with things.
At the same time, they've been fighting with one another, and that usually takes a lot of time out from you, where Valenteus has had a very clear circuit to go and run away from. You've got to give it up to Cocky, Verbruggen, and Texier. They're looking in their mirrors. They're looking at braking that little bit earlier, accelerating that little bit earlier. They keep each other busy out there, and to be so close in times with the leader in a clear circuit, well, hats off to the drivers for going and just trying to push that extra little bit down the road. But 2 laps to go, and Valenteus having an easy time there. Togo Sutter keeps an eye on his mirrors as the fight is not over. Leo is out for blood and goes for a clean pass. I think Toga going and lifting. Leo gives a quick wobble saying thank you very much, and that's that.
I wonder if he missed a shift or something. That's not like Togo to just give the spot up. Usually he's a fierce fighter. Robert Plumley, in the meantime, in a fierce fight of his own. Jack David Spickett just behind. Jason Clapper just ahead. Jason runs away. Now it is mano a mano between Plumley and Spickett. Spickett has the inside, and he's got the better brakes as he sends it into Riches. That's going to move him into 12th.
Not going to give it up just as yet. Spickett hoping to catch up to the likes of Plumley and, well, Clapper just ahead of him. And late on the brakes once again, Will Lamb going and trying to push a little bit more. And Will's also just keeping it consistent at the moment. Around the outside into turn 1. Keeps it on the black stuff. Does get a little bit squirrely under braking towards turn 2.
Conde just in front of him. He's been in a lot of action today, and he's not out of it yet, as here comes Will looking towards the inside of Palmer, but he doesn't have enough braking zone to try and sneak by him that time. Bad exit once again by Jose. Will, again, showing himself, coming down into Agostini, but history repeats itself, and he can't seem to get that overlap that he needs.
This is where you just have to take a breath. You're going to have to bleed off the brakes a little bit earlier. Try and put your nose in. With time running out as we head into the final lap, it's all or nothing for the drivers here in the Lotus 49s at Snetterton. Go and make up the last of the points for the F2 and the F1 championship in week 4. But I gotta say, what an incredible drive for Valenteus. Once again, having such a dominating run, going and recreating what he had at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, just amazing stuff. I think the only difference was that he didn't have the pole at Brands Hatch and fought his way to the front. This time, though, he's been leading from the word go. And what impresses me is Jack David Spickett and Jason Clapper currently are our hardest chargers. And the reason why is if you had asked me at the start of this race who was going to be the hard charger, I would have said Jacob Reed. If you had asked me 10 laps ago, I still would have said Jacob Reed. And yet somehow he has fallen down to 13th behind both Spickett and Clapper.
Absolutely incredible. And gotta say, Lotus 49 does not go and fail to enjoy. But take a look for second place as Cocky and Verbruggen are fighting it out. Tixier long out of that fight, and we may see a fight for second place coming down to these two. Seb Tixier had a big mistake somewhere, and it's 2 seconds off the back of them.
Good catch on that one. I didn't notice that he had suddenly disappeared from this duo. So will they be able to fight it out amongst themselves? They've only got really realistically one more corner to try and sort it out, because Valenteus is already beyond Maurice and onto the Senna straight. It's pole to victory for the #1, third of the season for Adrius Valenteus. Behind him, it is going to be Cocky ahead of Verbruggen by just a couple tenths of a second.
Seb Tixier rounding out in 4th place. Togo Sada loses out to Leo Sequeiro, who picks up into the top 5 after Brands Hatch brought him down. He's back up in towards Snetterton. Togo Sada not having too many laps this time round on Snetterton, still managing to get in the points, but Jacob Reed still in a hard charge to try and get past Plumley through the right-hander in towards the final corner, and it looks like Robert Plumley has got enough drive to hold on to that 13th. Jacob Reed in 14th.
Still struggling with that car, finding grip. You could see him sliding out of Murray's, and had to settle for 14th because of that. Cam Porter going to finish in a 9th, 16th in that fight with Carpentier and Becker. He seemed to be in that action all race long. And it is a decently long lap time-wise, but I find it interesting that we had 27 cars finish on the lead lap, considering it's a single split today. So despite the wide variety of iRating out here, everybody did an amazing job of keeping good pace.
The Donald Peak in 25th, and unfortunately we don't talk about Bruno with no nose as he does come across the line. But what a stellar drive from everyone. Mats Lynn in 27th position. Gotta say, with only one car out, I believe, everyone still managed to cross the line at the end of this race.
I think we had 2 DNFs, it looks like. Ho and Pava, unfortunately, not able to finish this race. But yeah, not a bad strike rate out of 29 starters. Only 2 DNFs. And here are those unofficial results, with Valenteus your winner, Cocky coming home in second, Verbruggen right behind him at the end, fighting him the whole way for third. As Seb Tixier finishes in 4th, Sequeiro gets a top 5 with a mysterious problem right at the end for Togo Hisada. Wonder if it was a missed shift or what exactly happened there. Sanchez was 7th, Tyler was P8, and Olsen finished 9th, just ahead of Josephine Becker, who put on a valiant effort to try and prevent him from overtaking.
And still more to come. Jack Davis Pickett managing to hold on to 11th ahead of Jason Clapper, Robert Plumley, Jacob Reed with a hard charge. Finishes up in 14th, Jonas Kopter, Cam Porter, Glenn Becker, the likes of Rocken in 18th, Alan Graham and Jose Conardi in 20th position.
21st will go to Will Lamb, with Kurt Clapper finishing 22nd. Tobias Arnby was 23rd, and Thomas Tuba had a spin partway through the race. That sent him down to 24th. Don Peak, from last up to 25th, was ahead of Andre Bruno in 26th, and Mats Linden was the last driver able to finish today. Gary Ho and Pava did not see the checkered flag in the end. I do believe we have second place finisher Nikola Kaki with us, who had quite the fight on his hands for much of the race. Nicholas, congratulations on a P2. You managed to get by Verbruggen, but it looked like you had trouble running away from him today.
Yeah. Hi guys. It was hard to actually shake Kevin. I don't think we had very different pace, to be honest. But it seems like that the toe here for some reason is very strong. So it's I was able to stick with them very easily, and I thought, at that time I thought I was maybe a little bit faster on pace. But as soon as I pass him, I tried to recover to Odrius, but Kevin didn't lost anything, and so I just thought that being behind, it's you have a little bit of advantage, maybe a couple of tenths probably, but it was very consistent. My focus was 100% to avoid any mistakes, and luckily I was able to do that today.
Yeah, I can imagine feeling that pressure inside the cockpit. But what really impressed me was, the qualifying showed, I think it was 0.6 of a second between yourself, or at least for second place, and Odrius. We thought that he would absolutely run away with this. You guys only wound up 4.4 seconds behind, which is much closer than what that qualifying implies. Were you also impressed with that?
Yeah, but to be honest, I think we should ask the guy if was just playing with us or something.
True.
Yeah, it's very strong in any situation, qualifying as well. I didn't made a very good qualifying lap, to be honest, but I think we were surprisingly close. I think because we already had a race in the middle of the week. And of course, he starts from the back, and when it happens, when he put the foot down, he should be able to gain around 1 second a lap. But this week it was not 1 second; it was actually a few tenths. So maybe you are right about this. We don't know. I don't think we had any chance anyway, but it looked like we had a small little chance, maybe if we were be able to stuck with this toe, but it's a lot of if.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Even still, congratulations on a second place. You fought hard and you earned it.
Thank you, Guy, and I want to congrats, of course, all the other guy around me, Seb, Odris, and of course Kevin. And I want to give a shout to Jorge, which we miss very much, and we are always looking forward to his return as soon as, of course, as well as Nick and all the other great guys that we have in this community. Bye bye.
That was second place, Nikola Kaki, and our thoughts as well going out to those that were missing in this series. But third place behind him was Kevin Verbruggen, and Steven has caught up with him.
Kevin, what a stellar drive. How are you feeling after that race where you're in piggy in the middle for majority of the race around Snetterton?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'll be honest, I really wasn't expecting to be up there in practice. I was just all over the place constantly. So I went into this race, let's just take a step back, see where we end up. And apparently that step back enough was to get my driving in order and be able to fight for the podium.
Now, take us through how was it setting up the car to be able to fight around Snetterton, where the circuit itself really does lean on having a little bit more camber, a little bit more toe, a little bit more of a focus on straight line speed versus hard cornering.
Yeah, definitely. There are just a couple of very tricky corners, very different corners as well. You have the turn 2 hairpin, which is very hard braking, but then at the end of the back straight, you have that long corner that's in the braking zone, and they're very different turns to try to deal with, and you have to find a middle ground somewhere. Now I know that on this track I was just constantly filling with the brake bias. It's the only thing you can change in the car while driving. I know many people don't, but on this track I was just changing it constantly for every single corner, trying to just get the rotation I need to not lock up the front or go around and spin off. But yeah, it worked out, and very happy with the result.
Where did you feel that you felt that you had the advantage to try go for second place? And where on the circuit did you feel that you were losing that little bit of time? Because it seemed like a bit of a to and fro as you were fighting it out to try and get towards second, but managing to hold on to third.
Yeah, I feel like the first couple of turns, turn 1 was quite tricky for me, so that's also why Nicola had a chance there into turn 2. I'll be honest, I didn't fight too hard there because I felt like he had the pace over me, and I wanted to see if he could try catch Adrius and maybe get us back together. But then in the midfield section, I was just constantly closing up again.
Absolutely. Now I've got to ask the question, because we've been contemplating in the box here. Are you from Liechtenstein, or are you Dutch like your club used to show?
I may still be from the Netherlands, and I wanted to try to get Liechtenstein on the podium because I just think it's it's a funny country. But yeah, like you also see some people from Sao Tome and Principe. But no, it's fun to see different countries represented and see different countries represented in the Nations Cup for once. So yeah, I implore others to do the same. Just have a little bit of fun.
Absolutely amazing. Well, Kevin, well done on a stellar effort. You managed to fight it out at Brands. You got to fight it again here at Snetterton, taking third place and really going home with a great amount of points.
Thank you.
So that explains some of the mystery there. Sorry there, Stephen, for Kevin Verbruggen. I think we got one more to chat with, and that is Seb Tixier, who finished fourth just behind them. But I want to talk about that last lap, Seb, because we noticed you right behind that battle all the way until that final lap, and then suddenly you're 2 seconds behind. Did the car just kind of run out of stuff, or what happened exactly?
Well, first of all, actually, I'm third, not fourth, of the people of Earth, because there's the alien in the front, and then there's the human being who make mistakes, you know. Yeah, for the question, well, so the last lap was a good summary of my race. Meaning, I was managing to catch up on Kevin and Nico all the time, and every time I catch up, made silly mistakes, and then lap, I did the silly mistakes like every turns, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy at the end to maybe overdrive it a little and bring out those errors. Even still, that group seemed to be very, very closely matched. If you had managed to get up to them a little bit sooner and caught them battling, do you think you could have snuck onto that overall podium, even if it wasn't for the Earthlings podium?
Depend if I remember where is my strong part, because I could see that the 2 hairpin I was managing to catch up a lot, so I could have dived there. I think I would have been able to overtake there, but it's a big if, because I'm pretty sure if it was closer, they would have close defend the inside line, and then you can't do anything. So I don't know. With if we can do a lot of things. No, the thing what really surprised me is Gogo, which is an half-breed alien, didn't manage to follow us, so I don't know why. I saw he did the roar, which I also did, so I don't know if he was more focused on roar and was too tired. I don't know. Gary, I did a good quali, but I saw the result was not good, so I'm a bit disappointed from my Padawan.
Yeah, we were told, and we don't know how accurate this information is, that Togo lacked practice here, is less than a couple dozen practice
I think
laps.
he
So
does, yeah.
yeah, so that might explain it. Well, regardless, a third of Earthlings and fourth overall is still very impressive, and hopefully we'll see you at Tsukuba.
Yes, and Jorge, come back, please.
You can tell that the community really misses him, but that was Seb Tixier finishing fourth, and that will wrap up our interviews here for today. So before we go, let's give a big thank you, of course, to the Lotus 49 community, and of course to our team today, Stephen, Daniel, and Dougie. Make sure to subscribe to GSRC so you don't miss a moment. And like I just said, our next race is going to be at Tsukuba. That's going to be a real challenge, as that is a tight little bull ring, and that will be January 17th if you want to tune in for that. We do have some other races that will be coming up, including, in just a couple hours' time, the IMSA Vintage Series goes to a classic, Monza, and that will be at noon. Be sure to check out our other broadcast, and until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
This is iRacing.